So in this video, we're going to learn how to use Vectric Aspire to create a basic nameplate that you can put on your desk or something like that, then how to save it so that you can use the Carvera machine. And when you first open up Aspire, you'll probably have it where you got this big gray area with Vectric on it, and then over here is going to be where you're going to start. So you'll see at the startup test, you're going to create a new file. So you'll just click create new file over here. And the first thing you're going to need to do is to put in the measurements for the wood that you're going to use. And the last job that I did was 250 by width, 148 by height, and it was 13 millimeters in width. So all that you'll need to do is grab a piece of wood, and oftentimes grab a caliper. You'll measure the depth or thickness of the piece of wood. This is 13 millimeters. And I've already measured this. This is about 250 millimeters across, and it is about 150 millimeters in the y-axis. This is about as big of a piece of wood as you probably want to use right now on the Carvera. So that's what we're going to use. Okay. And so you put those widths in. And notice the Z position is material surface. Make sure that it's clicked. That should be the default. And we're going to click OK. Alright, so now this white area here is our working area. This is our piece of wood. So now you've got lots of commands over here. We're going to slowly learn what all of these commands are. But first, let's make a name. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put my name in here. And so when you click on the big A, it'll give you the name. So I'm going to do Mike. And you can pick different fonts that you would like. As your first initial one, don't pick a crazy skinny font or like a really scripty font like this one, because this is going to be harder to do. Go with something short, simple, sweet, nice, clean. Right, I'm going to go with Arial, right, just nice and clean. Okay, and when you've got it, you can click done. All right, now I am going to go over here. It's just pretty big. I want to resize it, so I'm going to click on it. And notice you've got an edit objects in bold header right there. I'm going to click on the third one to the right. That's arrow with double arrows. And then I can just drag and resize it as I see fit. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to then move it to kind of someplace where I want for right now. Okay. Now, this is probably enough space, but if you're worried about having not enough space between your letters, okay, what you can do is when you move over your text and you go back and you click on the little A icon, right, and you select that text again, right, notice I've got a little plus sign that looks like a VA there. If I click it, notice my text goes together, but if I hold down the shift key, my letters get a little further apart. Okay, so I tend to like to have my letters just a little further apart to make sure that I can easily get my bits in between the letters, that I don't have any overlap, so my I isn't going to be eaten by my M or something like that. Because remember, your bits have thicknesses on them, right? And so your bit isn't just going to be really skinny like the laser, right? It's got some thickness to it. Right, so you have to take that thickness into account. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with that now. So again, if you miss that, you just go over, click on the A, and then when you move back over your text, you'll get that little plus button, and you can use one click to shrink it, hold down the shift key, get it bigger. All right, so now let's look at something that might happen here. So I'm gonna eventually cut out my name, right? I want to have it just where it cuts out. I don't want to engrave it, so I want my name cut out, right? So I want my name kind of like M-I-K-E. And when I do that, that's probably going to end up cutting out my little dot for my eye. So I actually want my eye and my dot to be connected to each other. So we're going to have to draw something and connect them together. So I'm going to go over here to my vector tools. I'm going to click on this rectangle tool. I'm going to come in here and I am going to draw a little rectangle in here. Okay? And I'm going to zoom in a bit. Once I've got my rectangle kind of where I want it, I'll click apply. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to kind of move it a little bit, make sure it's somewhat centered there. Alright. Now, what I can do is I can click on my name and I can click on the square. Now notice they're both pink. Okay. I am going to come over here now and under edit objects, right under my selection tool, which is just a white arrow, I can weld those objects together. Okay, so now you're going to get this little error. Some objects such as text will be converted to curves. Would you like to replace or keep the original objects? I'm just going to replace them for now. Alright, and now my dot is going to be connected to my eye. Right? Otherwise it will have this space cut out of it, right? So then I have to figure out how am I going to do my eye if I want it to be standing up on my desk. Okay. Alright. So, now I don't want separate letters, right? Because right now if I cut this out, I'm going to get separate letters. Okay. And so let's show you how this is going to work. So, let's apply a toolpath to this for right now. So I'm going to highlight that. Over here at the very top right, you'll see toolpaths. And you're also going to see a little tiny push pin. I'm going to click that push pin to have this to freeze open. I'm going to apply a profile toolpath. Okay. And I want this to be cut out. Alright. And so I'm not going to worry about anything right now because I'm going to delete it, but I want to show you what I want it to look like. So I'm just going to calculate what it's going to be. It's going to give you a warning because the cut depth is thicker than the piece of wood because it's going to cut through. Okay, and it jumps immediately to the 3D view, and you can use this top hexagon or octagon over here to see what it's going to look like. And if I go over here to my toolpath operation, then if you see this little preview toolpaths button, and I'm going to reset everything just to be safe, and then I'm going to preview them all. You'll see what it's going to look like. Okay, let's rotate through. So notice where it's cut out. Okay, so I'm going to get a separate M, an I, a K, and an E. Okay. That means I'll have 4 letters, but I want it to stand up on my desk where I want it to say Mike, right? Like a sign. So I got to figure out how I want to do that. So I'm going to delete this profile toolpath. All I have to do is right click on it and choose delete. I'm going to delete it. Okay, so let's go back to our 2D view. This is my sketching out area. What I want is I'm going to draw another rectangle. So I'm going to draw a rectangle, and notice you can specifically type the size that you want, or you can draw it over here. So I'm going to draw one in. Okay. And I'm going to make his height, let's say 10. Okay, and I'm pretty happy with his width right there. And I'm going to click apply. Alright, and I'm going to close that. Okay, so now I have rectangle. I'm going to use my arrow keys. I'm going to bring it down, and I want it to overlap just a little bit with my letters. Okay, and we're going to see why here in just a second. I might have it go down just a little bit more. Yeah, it just needs to overlap just a little bit, not much. Okay. Now notice each of my letters are the same, are individual letters. So I'm going to draw a circle or a square around those, select them all. I'm going to go over here to my edit objects. I'm going to group them. So now they're one object. So now if I move them, right, it'll move together. And why I want it to do that is I'm going to select both of these guys together. And over here, under my transform objects, this one that's got kind of square with arrows all over it, that's going to align it. So I can, now this is how I'm going to like center them. And so what I want to do is I want to center them to each other. Okay, and I'm going to center them on the bottom. Okay, and yeah, all right. So you can use these tools to center things. And what I want to do now is I'm going to push this guy back up just a little bit. And there we go with my arrow keys. And now he's just overlapping. Okay, so now this guy is centered with my letters Mike. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to highlight all of them again. I'm going to close my centering tool. I'm going to go back to weld again. And I'm going to click weld, and it's going to weld them together. And now notice I've got my piece of rectangle welded to my letters. Okay, so you can make this rectangle bigger or something, like if you wanted to laser engrave on it or something like that. Okay, which is kind of cool. All right. Now what we want to do is now we're going to have to cut out some things. Okay, so notice when I click on this outer layer, it selects all this stuff, okay, on the outside. Okay, all right, so let's do a cut path. All right, so I'm going to close over here. I'm going to go over to profile under my tool paths. I am going to select a new tool. Since I am playing around with end mills, I'm going to go just select a basic end mill. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I am in my imperial tools because that's the ones that we have. And then on your tool set, we have a lot of these tools bits in the space, but most bits and most companies will have a library, and you'll download the library, and we'll go through that in another video. And you'll have to find the right bit because it will have all the right speed settings for you. And so the bit that I am going to use is, I want to use hardwood. Okay, and I am going to use my little 1/8 inch bit, and it's a W2005 bit. Okay, and I'm going to select it. Okay, now over here it's going to walk you through how many times it's going to go around. It's going to go around 5 passes, and then you've got some choices. You can do outside. So that means it's going to go on the outside of this path, or you can do on the inside, or you can do on. Okay. So let's look at how outside's going to look like. Why doing it on the outside makes some sense is because our eye right here is a little narrow. Okay, so doing it on, right, again, your bit has some width to it, so this might get pretty skinny. Okay. So let's do that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name down here to say cut name, and I'm going to let calculate. It's going to cut through it. Okay, and let's see, I'm going to reset the preview, because if you don't hit that reset preview button, it will show you the last one in place. So now let's preview it. See how that looks. Okay, so I think I kind of like that. Alright. Alright. And you can kind of see the difference. Is that if we go back to the 2D view, and I double click my cut name, and this time I say on, and my depth was 13, I'm actually going to change this to 13.2, just a little bit smaller under here for my cut depth, and I'm going to calculate it. It's going to say again an error. And so let's see how this is going to look now. Let's again hit the reset preview. Now let's preview it again. Yeah, see when it cuts it on, I've lost my little eye. So I think what we're going to want to do is make sure that we're going to be on the outside so that we don't cut our little eyeball off there on top of our eye. So I'm going to change that to outside, and I'm going to calculate. Okay, reset the preview. Let's preview it. Yep, so there it is. Alright, so now let's go to 2D preview. Because notice one thing, notice my M, right? It kind of looks like a V, right? My E is missing a hole in it as well, and my K looks funny because I've got these black ones here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that one, that one, that one, and that one. Alright, I'm going to make these guys get cut out as well. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to my preview. I'm going to do a profile here. Alright, this time I'm going to do it on. So it's going to just exactly trace this outline. Okay, and this time I'm going to say hole cuts, because this is kind of like cutting holes in the letters. Okay, alright, and now I'm going to calculate. Okay, and let's close that. Let's go to my preview tool. Let's reset the preview, and let's preview all my toolpaths. See how it looks. Okay, let's flip it around here. Yeah, so now I've got myself a little sign. Alright. So that looks pretty good. Alright, so what we can do is, now that we've got one of these, right, is I could go in and I can move, say, Mike over here. We could put somebody else's name here and maybe somebody else's name here, right? So then that way we can really use as much of the wood as possible, right? Or make sure that I put my name down here in the bottom corner. That way I still have the rest of the wood for somebody else to use. Okay, so once you move this though, what you have to do is go back over, and because notice it thinks it's cutting up here even though I moved my text down here. So if you move it, you have to go back over here to your toolpaths, right click and recalculate, and just recalculate everything. Okay, and notice it moved it down there. And now if I reset my preview, I preview everything. I go to my 3D view, and there's my name, right? Which is kind of cool. All right. Now, our last step is saving it for the machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my hole cuts up. I'm going to have it be cut first because the machine cuts in this order. If you see this little save icon right there that kind of looks like the drill bit pressing down on it, you're going to hit that button and you're going to save it to the desktop Carvera. And you'll have a couple of these. You'll have the Carvera ATC or the Carvera Wrap. Okay? Make sure that you save it to the ATC because this is going to be a flat surface. Make sure both of them are checked. Okay? And notice it's got our toolpaths up here, and you're going to save the toolpaths. And this is going to get saved in my downloads folder probably, so I'm going to say this is Mike Practice. Okay. Now, one thing we want to do is our Carvera, we have learned, is a little finicky. So we're going to go over here and I'm going to find my file, Mic Practice. Okay, we're going to open it. Okay, it should open in Notepad. Okay, now there's some things we have to worry about. I'm going to delete this top file, all this text up here. You don't really have to, but it's going to make our life a little easier. Delete that. Now, do you see where this says T1M6? That means that's going to be our first tool. That's our bit. And M6 basically tells it that it's going to be turning on. We are going to take that line. I'm going to cut it and we're going to paste it. We have to put that up there first. Okay. Now, if that said T0, it gets grumpy. We have to change that to a 1. But this line has to go first. Because that is sometimes will lead, if it's not first, it will lead to an error on having the machine not home correctly. Okay. And once you do that, then you can file, save this file. And notice this file is just a bunch of G-code telling the machine where to go. And then this is the file that you're going to open on the machine attached to the Carvera.